Oh boy. All right. Welcome to an exciting edition of the Bulluminati podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Bond. Joined alongside me as always, Robert Steeg, Seth Varnadore, and we have brought in for the second week in a row, Dr. Matt Morrison. I'm sure he's got a bunch of letters behind his last name. I'll let him tell you all of them. But let's jump right into it. Guys, hell has frozen over. Something that has been in the works for decades finally is just eking across the finish line. USF football will have a new home in their $340 million on-campus stadium, butts and seats. Lord willing, 2026. Let's freaking go.
Yay.
Hey,
Steeg's got the hard hat on. He's ready to contribute.
I never thought I'd see the day.
I figured we'd all have the muted reaction that the board of trustees had when it passed. I think Nick said it best. It was like, all right, next business. We're gonna move on to DSO and get that approved really quickly. Wonder why.
Now let's just slip that in right after the biggest announcement in USF athletics history, since they approved the football team. Let's just slip that right in. And and we're carrying on. All right, master plan. Let's go.
Yeah. Does that show an increase in sophistication to slide that in right after, just in terms of media strategy?
Yeah, can you was it 10:30 a.m. something? I think that's what they did
on a Tuesday.
They definitely chose it strategically because that was after like ESPN and the Athletics sent a notification, and then someone mentioned they're like talking about the DSO right now, and I was like, perfect timing. No one's gonna give a shit.
Everybody went to go write up the story. Now let's talk about the DSO. Nathan, what is a DSO for all those wondering and bad with acronyms?
Even I don't even want to crap on it. So a DSO is a direct support organization. The University of Florida has one. FSU has one. Central Florida has one. It basically protects any department, any kind of entity at a university from Sunshine State laws, which is why we all know we have no idea what Brian Gregory's buyout actually is. We don't know what Jeff Scott's buyout actually is. It's because the bulk of that contract is hidden within the USF Foundation, which is already a DSO. So that, hey, if you fire a coach, you only have to pay him 20 weeks worth of salary. It's never true. So that's what we're getting with this DSO. Now the athletic department will be under DSO, so they're going to be able to hide a lot more stuff. The thing that should concern a lot of people, and I know today's probably not the best day to bring up something concerning after literally getting $200 million in debt services and all, getting us seriously, there's no accountability. It's how Doug Willard was able to double up on a contract. It's the extensions of all these coaches that we have no idea what the buyouts are. That it's the Charlie Strong saga all over again. But now it's for perpetuity and foreverness. So it's, watchdogs like us who try to keep the part on it, make it a lot harder for us to do that, especially, this university historically has not been great at spending money wisely, and now they're under the cover of this DSO and they can run rampant. And I think you may be able to discuss this coherently as well as Dr. Matt. But when you're trying to get a $340 million stadium off the ground, maybe you want to do some of it in the dark, and I get it.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a necessary evil for USF to take the next step for what they want to do and what they want to be. It's I would say for a majority of the people that would make up the 35,000 plus seats and, you know, a little bit extra for standing room in the new stadium, I'd say for about 34,800 of them, like it wouldn't matter. It's mostly like a media thing, and you know, we hold USF as accountable as possible, and this is just basically another hurdle that we would have to. It's insurmountable to even get past at that point. So I would argue to say for most people it doesn't matter. You know, from the devil on one shoulder says, like, this is bad, like this is really bad, but then like the angel on the other side is like, yeah, but they're gonna build a new stadium with it and it's gonna look really sick. Or it should be the other way around, but yeah.
All right, well, let's bring in the devil on your shoulder real quick.
I say you mentioned the DSO and doesn't show up.
You say those 3 letters, it's like talking in the mirror. And, hey, you boys here.
Beetlejuice.
Yeah. How are you, boys? How's things? Big day for the Bulls.
We're good. We're just talking about DSOs. What are your thoughts?
We had all of our 2007 goals. It's great.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know if you can hear me on the microphone or the it's for some reason not accepting my microphone, even though it's like sitting here. So yeah, DSO bad, stadium good. So DSO basically allows the university to hide public records. That's basically the only reason it kind of exists. They would argue things such as, oh, we'll have more control over certain management processes that will be exempt from some state requirements that are like, you know, that the rest of the state has to work with. But that's crap. The reality is it's so that they can hide money, they can move money around, and that they can hide documents and hiring processes and things like that. I have fought this for years and years and years. I never doubted that this day was going to come. You know, basically every other big school in the state of Florida has gone this route. Florida famously has some of the most permissive sunshine laws in the country. It is just now that under the last, 4 to 8 years of, and even going back a little bit further than that, those laws have just been chipped away at, and more exemptions have been put into the law, not just in education, but in, all sorts of, like, for example, right now, Ron DeSantis can travel on a statewide plane and nobody has to know where he's going. They don't have to report his location, his anything, despite the fact that he is the governor of the state and using taxpayer dollars to make those trips. So this was inevitable, especially with this board, which, is, I would say, very business friendly. This is something that makes business easier to handle theoretically. And it also allows them to move some stuff around. So it doesn't surprise me. I'm very against it. I hope that some of the things that were said today in the meeting about how public records will still be available and things like that, that those things won't change. We'll see. The proof will be in the pudding when push comes to shove on something like this. But yeah, I mean, the only reason I ever got Doug Willard's second contract, the secret contract, and the fact that he was getting paid $1 million on his last day at the university, and by the way, that was me, was because of public records. So much of the stuff that I found is because of public records. There was one thing that happened that I still don't publicly talk about, where we over provided public records to me and violated the Steeg. I can see the Steeg smile. He knows exactly the story I'm talking about. And too many public records were provided to me because nobody even had the foresight to just take a look at the hundreds and hundreds of pages that I asked for before they were turned over. And the privacy rights of a lot of the student athletes were violated. I never did anything with it. I didn't, it was a story. I just sat on it. I didn't think it was worth it. It was clearly a clerical mistake because it was bad, so, but the reason that I couldn't get a hold of anything was because of public records requests. I thought some of the exemptions that the university had claimed over the years were kind of crap. I had talked to some attorneys at other news outlets about some of the things that were denied to me over the years. And they said, yeah, you've got a case. You go to court, you'll probably win. Good luck hiring an attorney that's going to take the case and that you can afford. So, it's tough, but it is what it is. this was sort of inevitable. This is the way things are going. This is the way things are going in the state of Florida right now. So I try not to dwell on the negative, and I didn't say anything about it today, but it's just going to happen. And, just if you're a donor to the university, if you are someone who is a stakeholder in the university, ask every year for an annual itemized budget. Ask every year for income and outgo and an annual report that should show where all of the money is coming in and out of, that is not just broken down into these large categories like football recruiting, X amount of dollars, or, staff benefits, X amount of dollars, like an itemized, fully itemized budget.
I want to know the Portillo's budget.
What's the Portillo's? The Portillo's budget. I want to know what you. Can I tell this story? I can tell it. A certain administrator with all of you are familiar with, famously used to put in for reimbursement to go to Jersey Mike's for lunch. Jersey Mike's was on Fowler Avenue across the street from campus, and they would put in for mileage. So, we would find those kinds of things out by public records requests. I'm not going to blow up anybody's spot, but yeah, I mean, some things happened over the years, and only reason I have to find out about them, things they tried to hide when they were screwing up. And it wasn't just me. Joe Knight did a really good job with a lot of this stuff. Greg Allman used a lot of this stuff when he was here. I think Brett McMurphy did as well during his time covering the program. And a lot of ways, if they don't tell you, you don't have a way to find out. Sometimes they're going to hold the line and not tell us anything. And then we find out that, the basketball team is missing a player at an airport because a player's mother tweets it out. That's kind of how we find stuff, but these public records requests are also a way for us to show the accountability of the university.
Right.
Whether they continue, I don't know. So I'm sad about that, but I hope that they hold to the same standards despite being a DSO, but now they legally don't have to. So we'll see.
It's always fun. Our Lord and Savior Nathan Bond, as affectionately called hot dog water internet, kicked out. So we're gonna have to roll this on a fly. But talk about DSO first, just to get the negative out of the way. Spend 12 minutes on that, and we'll spend the next 45 minutes on the positive side of things. Hell yeah, we're gonna have a fucking stadium. Holy shit. God willing, in the next couple of weeks when they have that state meeting in Tampa, that they don't just pull the rug from under us and be like, yeah, and you know what, USF, we don't approve you guys actually building that stadium. That'd be arguably the funniest timeline. Would be like whomever, I don't know if it's a Ron DeSantis kind of like has to sign the paperwork or whatever. But whomever is going to file that approval is like, you know what? Nah, we don't want them to have this. We state of Florida doesn't approve, and all of this just goes to waste. Because if I could probably be so frank, this last approval is arguably the easiest approval for them to get. I don't think they're going to get met with much resistance because they're so business friendly between Will Weatherford and the representatives from the state of Florida that are going to be making this decision. So that's the next hurdle for the on-campus stadium. But the Board of Trustees vote today was probably more of a formality at the end of the day. 13 yays, 1 nay. I think that was pretty much what we all kind of expected, right?
Yeah, it seemed like that was all moving towards this, right? These are just kind of you got to keep these votes up for almost appearances at this point. It's kind of going through, right? I did want to ask you guys about the piece that came out last week from Matt Baker talking about the economic feasibility of the stadium before the approval. Did you guys get a chance to read that? I know a couple of you have. Has everybody got a chance to read that?
Yeah, I skimmed it over.
Yeah. What were your thoughts, Dr. Matt, as somebody that's kind of in kind of academia, him going to seemingly kind of a random group of professors there? What were your thoughts on that article, if you had any?
The professor from Holy Cross that Matt Baker went to and interviewed is pretty well renowned as a sports economist. He's one of the co-authors of a commonly used textbook. So the guy really knows his stuff. And if you take the position, as he appears to have taken, is that generally new stadiums are bad. They don't deliver the economic benefit they purport to. It's hard to argue. In general cases, I think a lot of cities are having buyer's remorse on that. I think the interesting thing that he focused on that it's important to dig into why USF is a unique case and why it's something that is this $340 million investment actually has the potential on return is because of USF. It's not like it's just always been this low attendance. There has been signs that you can really build a fan base. Colin alluded to certain things about needing to rebuild that connection with the local community. If you have a 35,000 seat stadium, as it looks like they're going to build, that's one way to get people back on campus. It's a sign that USF is getting its act together, making that kind of connection with the community, which means that improvement on the revenues that they were talking about in the article, there is a feasible pathway to it. Obviously, you have to win. You have to make the effort to rebuild that. But I think in a lot of the other cases where the stadium, when it didn't provide the economic benefit, is because they kind of overstated the potential growth. Whereas with USF, I think there actually is a really strong potential growth. The reason why they've been struggling with attendance is issues with the connections with the local community. The transportation from Temple Terrace down to the Buccaneer Stadium can be challenging for students, particularly students who are of lower incomes. And to tell you a quick story, when I moved down from Baltimore and went to Tampa, my first thought is like, you know what? I'm going to support the Rays. I'm going to go to a lot of these games. And I was living in Temple Terrace, and I quickly found out how hard it is to travel down to St. Pete, especially when you're a grad student. So the location, Tampa has a lot of sprawl, which means that a lot of people who went to USF, they're kind of closer to where the stadium will be, which means that it's easier to access. So you have that opportunity. We're not paying the fees to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers owner. So there's that. Also, there's an interesting opportunity when they pitch it. It's about concerts, right? They want concerts to come in. And when you try to build a 50, 60,000 seat stadium, there are only so many Taylor Swifts in the world, right? But having a niche about somebody who can get 35,000 into a stadium, I think there's a lot more of those. And I think that if you play it right and you can demonstrate that you can get fans in there, you can make more revenue. I think the last thing I'll point out is that I do empathize a lot with faculty who are frustrated. Even as I will say that the $340 million that wouldn't have gone into facilities, and it was an investment from 2007 through 2020 on football. So the issues with the USF academic facilities are not because of investment in athletics. Hopefully this might actually bring in more benefactors to the university. But you might be at another institution, and I'll use the University of Mississippi as an example. They were going to build a new STEM building, and some funding issues happened there. And in the meantime, in the 9 years where they had put shovels in the ground and then just left it there literally to grow weeds, they rebuilt both end zones of the football field. They built an entire new basketball facility, which unfortunately is not translated into SEC tournament or NCAA tournament appearances. So some of the faculty there are pretty bitter. So from that perspective, especially if they're coming from other institutions where those kind of things have happened, the bitterness or the frustration, actually frustration is a much better word. I believe that's a lot. It's fair. I do think that if we do it wrong, it can go horribly wrong. But I think it's really important that we have the right people, as I mentioned on last week's podcast. Ray Law, from everything I heard, she's doing an amazing job. Michael Kelly is building all these relationships. It takes time, but in the time it's going to take to do that, we're in the AAU. We've got the new IPF. We're going to have a new on-campus stadium. So I think that Colin, of course, can speak a lot better about the DSO and being forthright. But there's a right way to do it. You build a really good stadium that has a good reputation. It's structurally sound. It's some place that people want to go. You build a quality program, and then you develop a good family environment with concerts that can attract some people in the 30,000 range. It can go really well. And I think that that's where the interest of the state would come in. It's like, hey, we can potentially really revitalize and build up an entire new economy right around Temple Terrace. But and I'll stop on this. But it has to be done correctly. Otherwise, the concerns in the article would be valid.
Yeah, those are all great points. As I read it, I kind of thought that, I think if you're talking to people that aren't familiar with what's going on in Collins, see, you guys can both talk to this a lot more intelligently than I can, being a little bit more plugged in the area. It seemed to be, if you're looking at it just as a pure football program standpoint, and I'm looking at the revenues of football programs brought in the last 5 years, then yeah, maybe it doesn't make sense. It seemed like everyone he interviewed thought it would be difficult to find events to fill the stadium. It's my understanding that there's pretty close relationships with within the USF community with like the groups that are booking Amelie and the people that are doing stuff at Ray J. So would it be as difficult as some might seem to get events there, Colin or Steeg? You guys could probably speak a little more intelligently to that than I could.
So yeah, Vinnick Sports Group is going to handle this. So those are the people you want making those sales. They already have Amelie. They're plugged in. They're drawing concerts into this area already. Their job is to go out and sell and to get people to use this new facility whenever it's built. I don't know the exact details of that partnership, and I'll never get them because it's a DSO. But as far as I know, that they have, from what I've been told, they have the rights to fill the building, and that also includes inventory such as naming rights, signage, all that kind of stuff. All that they'll have any sort of corporate money that comes in. That has been passed around a couple of different places over the year. ESPN out of Charlotte had those rights for a long time. Not Jefferson Pilot, the other company based in Wake Forest. His name is just escaping me right now. No, it'll come to me. When I'm sleeping at night, it'll come to me. But there's a large media rights company that handles everything from like radio ads all the way through signage and things like that. And they had our rights for a while, but now Vinnick has those, and that's the guy you want, in this town especially. So I think that's good. I thought Baker caught a lot of shit for an article because USF fans are like, why is everything so negative all the time? And I'm like, y'all, you've won one football game since 2019 that matters. Like, there's not a lot of joy to write about around here right now, okay? People can be – there's just not. So – there can be concerns about this stadium and the cash flows. I understand those concerns. I agree with Will Weatherford that it makes more sense to take this chance than to not. So I think that is the right way to approach it. But it is okay to express concern. The Vegas Knights go 3-1. Let's go. So I appreciate those concerns. But for me, the part of the article that doesn't get deep enough, and this is not on Baker, this is because USF makes it really hard to find this stuff. And if I hadn't been there for 15, around this place for 20 plus years, I would know this stuff. Every time you comp a ticket to Ray J, it costs USF $2. If they give away a ticket, they have to pay the Tampa Sports Authority $2 for that ticket. They get 3,000 parking spaces at Ray J. They can sell those, and that's how, if you get your parking pass, they get the revenue on those 3,000. Anything over 3,000, you sell 15,000 parking spaces to the Alabama game, $0. You buy a beer, $0. They get the little merch stands at four of the entrances, the little stand-up tables and things like that. I don't know what the revenue split is there, but it can't be that fantastic. the cost of playing at Ray J. You know, if they open up one side of the upper deck, pay more money. Open up both sides of the upper deck, pay more money. The amount of revenue that they lose because of being in a terrible lease deal. And the reason I say it's a terrible lease deal is because this stadium was publicly financed 100% by the taxpayers of Hillsborough County, by a ballot initiative that raised the sales tax 1 cent. That some of the money went to the library, some of the money went to some other things, but I think it was like 20-some% of that tax revenue went to build the stadium. The Buccaneers did not put a dime towards it. And then when the thing opens up and they have complete control over the rights to it, they just give USF the worst deal ever. And they have consistently done that for a while. Well, what's the comparison here? Go to Pitt. Go see Pitt's deal in a stadium that the Steelers actually put some money towards to build, and they give the Panthers a much, much better deal than USF has ever gotten. I tried to write that story over the years. I tried to tell that story. It didn't really go anywhere. Nobody really picked up on it. But USF's been in a terrible financial, they could do all of these things for football, but except for the donations to buy the season tickets and the season tickets themselves, they're not generating any ancillary revenue on the stadium at all. And it's costing them a ton. 4-1, let's go. So that's the revenue piece that I think people are missing, is that you're going to get all that money now. That's all your money. The parking's your money. You don't got to pay $2.50 every time somebody walks in the door. This is revenue that you're going to be able to keep on your own campus. So I think the floor of what could be terrible is not nearly as bad as people think, because there's just a baseline of revenue that's always going to be there around the program. Fine. But the upside, they're going to need to find some upside here. And I appreciate that they're saying we're going to lose money the first few years. That's okay. You know what I mean? They're willing to invest in this program. And they're saying, this stadium's not going to pay for itself at first, but it will in the long run. It's the best thing for the university and the culture of the school and building a successful football program. And we're going to take that hit in the short term, because in the long run, we know it's going to be a positive.
Right.
So, the other thing that I want to point to is that, let's be fair, the Sundome, the money that was said to be coming in the pro forma for the Sundome, it didn't work out. It just flat out didn't. We haven't sold, when was the Sundome redo? 13. It was the first season was 2012, 2013. We were in there because it was the year after we played at Amalie Arena, which was 2012, which was the last time we went to the NCAA tournament. Remember, USF has not played in an NCAA tournament while playing the regular season at the Sundome since 1992. So, men's basketball. So, I understand the concerns. What makes me happy about this is that it's not crap. They've been up front. This is how the money's going to come in. We're selling Spectrum. We're selling the spectrum of the TV and radio rights from WUSF. We're not making the students put in here. These numbers are real. There's real money that's being donated. The no students thing, unbelievable.
That jumped off the page to me. That was like, well, that's a sign that's if they were talking about trying to get student fees from it, I would have been very concerned.
Yeah, and they're not, and they're doing this the right way. And so this has to happen. And the floor is, I think, higher than the risk would normally be, just because of how much they lose and how much they get screwed by Ray J, by the Buccaneers, by the Tampa Sports Authority. It's been a bad deal for a very long time. It's been a contentious relationship, from what I've been told, for a very long time. And that goes away now. And we have a 2-year out in the lease, which means we can give 24 months notice. We don't have to play it anymore. I assume that once all of this gets approved, Michael Kelly's going to send a little fax over there like Pat Riley to the Knicks and be like, we out. 2025, deuces up. And we'll play our last game there in 2025. And in 2026, God forbid there's a construction delay. You figure it out. You play a couple road games or whatever you got to do. They're going to get this done. This is going to happen. And that's incredible. Weatherford said this publicly. We're going to build stadiums. I checked it out today. 642 days ago. 642 days. You go from, sounds good. Okay, well, somebody finally put their name and face on it for the first time. Somebody took accountability and said, we're going to make this happen. And they made it happen. That doesn't happen at USF. It just
and especially
doesn't.
through
and that's awesome.
especially through 2 really bad football seasons too. There's definitely a motivation behind the scenes to try to take a step forward. Steeg, you've been pretty locked in on this process. Talk about kind of the process. You even got your hard hat. Why? And I think one of your biggest shouting points on Twitter is about renderings, right? Explain why those may not come for a while and why it might be important to understand how you're going to generate your revenue before you release renderings and things of that nature.
Right. And to the credit of my own kind of backing, I'm very in tune with how this process is normally going to work. And I can kind of say, and I mentioned it earlier on Twitter, that this process, for how slow it seems for USF fans, is actually really, really fast. Like, this has been really accelerated. I mean, Colin said 642 days since Will Weatherford said this. And I know for every rendering that the Buffalo Bills, the University of Tennessee, and the Jaguars, and all these others, organizations created renderings, those timelines were a lot longer than what USF put forth in 642 plus days in order to make that progress. They've been talking about renovating, the Jag Stadium ever since Shad Khan took it over. And so that took 8 years for them to make a rendering of a stadium that already exists with a billionaire owner with fuck you amount of money. So for USF to kind of make this to make that statement and then to be where they're currently at, which is like, dude, they're doing if it's like a marathon, they're doing all the training right now. They're within 2 or 3 weeks, they're going to be starting their first marathon. And then in a couple of months, once they do the groundbreaking, that's when the marathon starts. And that's when you're going to see all the fun stuff happen. The renderings, I at this point, it's more of a meme for me than anything. But the renderings are taking as long as they are right now for multiple reasons. But the first one is they didn't have the final budget on things. So you can't, it's like building a new house, right? Like, if you don't know how much you're going to spend, your architecture can make as many renderings as they want. You can say, yeah, that looks good. Yeah, that looks bad. I don't like this. I don't like that. But you can't have a final product until you know how much you're going to spend. And now that they know how much they're going to spend, they can finally put forth the final product and show everyone what that looks like. And they mentioned it today in the article that once they're out of the design phase, theoretically they could put a rendering out right now. They have them. Like, they have multiple renderings for all different types of budgets. And a couple of weeks ago, when it leaked out that there was a rendering of one with a roof that was a slight overhang and one that was a fully covered one, that's because they counted for, okay, we can get 40% of that budget, we can get 80% of that budget, we can get 100% of that budget, we can get 120% of that budget. So they accounted for all of that. And so that's basically where they're at. And they talk to alumni, they talk to students, they talk to people in the area, they talk to as many people as they possibly could to know what's important, what's not important, because they're building it for us, theoretically. And when it comes out, it's going to be a drawing of a stadium, and then the stadium is going to look somewhat similar to that. And that's it. I mean, it's going to generate excitement for the community for probably 13 hours. Like, at the very best, it's going to, things are just going to fly for 13 hours. It's going to be nonstop coverage. UCF is going to tweet something stupid, and FAU alumni is going to tweet something stupid, and then for 13 hours, it's all they're going to talk about. And then it's going to be gone, because that's how quickly this day and age is going to be. But there's still going to be that residual excitement that's going to be in the community after the fact. So, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to, for the first time, be invited to these groundbreaking ceremonies and be invited to more and more, exclusive things to know how the partnership is going to be for the skyboxes and the naming rights and whatnot. But again, it's going to be kind of like a quiet thing until those shovels are actually in the ground. But yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. They're going to have a rendering at some point. It's not a big deal.
In the meantime, we're going to sell "Show Us the Rendering" T-shirts.
Right.
Can I,
Send
can
me
I
a picture with Steeg wearing that.
Yeah,
hat.
with a hard hat. Show us the rendering. Colin, you had something to say. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, okay. So I told you guys last time we did a podcast, I just bought a condo here in Tampa. I'm also looking at one in Las Vegas. And the reason I'm looking there is because of my job, obviously. As I sit here wearing a Golden Knights or a Vegas Knights scarf for Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. But the reason I'm wearing the scarf is not because I love the Knights. It's because I hate the Panthers that much, and I really want them to just get smoked. I'm not a secondary Vegas fan. I'm a Lightning fan.
Classic spite scarf.
I am wearing the spite scarf because I go to Golden Knights games because they're fun and I enjoy them, but they are not my team. I am wearing this only because they're playing the Panthers. I hate them. Anyway, here's the reason I bring this up. I've seen five different renderings of stadiums of where the Oakland A's are going to play in Vegas. 5. Tropicana, Rio, next to Allegiant on the other side of the drop that they're doing right now off I-15 in Tropicana. 5-1 Vegas. Let's go. And then 2 different versions of some of those. None of it's getting built. They approved $387 million today from the Nevada legislature. But none of those, they're just drawings. They're Photoshops that are just made up for no reason. The reason we don't have those is because about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, I don't know, I was invited to go to a focus group to ask, what do you want to see in a stadium? Me and a ton of other stakeholders from all over the campus, donors, students, professors, everybody asking the right questions. So what would you rather have? Would you rather have a drawing? Or would you rather have like people who are doing the right things and asking the right questions so that when you get a drawing, it's right and it's accurate and it's not like the A's with their damn halo that's going over the top of the stadium that makes no flipping sense. It was like, what, you can't build it there anyway. You only have 9 acres. How are you going to build this thing? It literally doesn't fit. So do you want a bullshit rendering or do you want a stadium that's thought through the right way so when you see it, it is what it's going to be? I hate USF fans sometimes. I love all of you. There are just some times where I just want to like jump off a bridge.
All right, what do you guys want? Okay, well, here's what you're getting. So, yeah, you don't want to do that, right? You don't want.
And the worst thing that they could have done, by the way, in this entire process, because I think a lot of this get lost past the front of some people's noses. If they 6 months ago created a rendering to generate excitement, say this is going to be our $340 million stadium, and then get up to the board of trustees meeting and you get some shakier members, some people may not be into it, and it doesn't get approved for $340 million. It gets approved for $260 million. Still a pretty good investment, but that stadium is going to look vastly different. If
poverty
you have poverty programs here. And so that's the other part of it is that, for as much as and I say we, like as a collective, everyone has shitted on USF for being dumb and tripping over their dick sometimes and making stupid decisions and rushing through things. The fact that they are doing things as diligently as they are right now to make sure that they're putting forth the right things at the right time. And Michael Kelly, God bless that man, goes on Twitter and says, hey, when we have the renderings, we'll get them out. We want to make sure it's done right. We have some ideas of what we're doing. We're still workshopping some things, but we want to have the final rendering so that when you guys see USF's on-campus stadium, what you see is what you're going to get. And he's met with people saying, fuck you, Michael Kelly, give me rendering. I want to jerk off to a fucking college football rendering of a stadium for 6 hours and then forget about it so that I can bitch about Alex Golish losing to Western Kentucky in his first game. Like, it's a short-sighted thing to just beg and beg and beg for nothing more than a cartoon drawing of something. If they never released a rendering and then all of a sudden it just appeared, it would be the greatest. Like, they're like, yep, no rendering, shovels in the ground next week.
Would you rather have a rendering Would you rather have a rendering or a baseball and softball stadium where if you foul a ball off at the baseball stadium, it doesn't kill a left fielder in the softball stadium? Because that's what happened the last time we had rendering. And we didn't have a damn clue of what we were doing. And then we go live and we go, oh, can't happen. Opening night. And we almost kill a left fielder twice, like by the fifth inning. Get out of here. I'm sick. Just let. I understand USF administration deserves like not a lot of extended
leeway
and forgiveness. There has been a lot of things they've screwed up over the years. But this is the people that are doing this are different people, and they're doing it the right way. Get out of the way and just let them, yeah.
I want it to be on a billboard with a rendering. It says, "Welcome to the Big Four in Florida football stadiums."
The same guy who put that billboard together is the same guy who lied about decapitating left fielders.
Well, there you go.
That's true. I did see we had a question from Steven earlier. It was at 20 minutes ago. That I want to get to ask this. From my knowledge on what's been going on, he asked, will the stadium have any type of dome over the field? 35,000 seats. Can it be increased later? First question, as of right now, no dome. Again, still in the design phase. They're still piecing it out. They have expressed the idea to Barton Mallow and Populous of potentially having a dome, but they're probably not going to go through with that. Again, it's one of Colin looked at me like I just had like 17 heads. They introduced it as an idea to see if it was feasible, and with how they're going to build this, it is not feasible. So no dome. They feasibility studied it. No dome. 35,000 seats. Capacity is probably going to be like 38,000 with boxes and standing room and everything like that. And I know there's maybe some ideas of having a burn for the student section, so that could be extended out a little bit more. But it will have the ability to be increased upon later. And I think that's the key. And I think a lot of people in their instant reaction who are not so keen on USF in this USF world, they said $340 million for a 35,000 seat stadium. The math ain't math in there. That's a lot of dollars per seat. But when you account for the fact that that's a $340 million stadium that can be increased to 40, 45, maybe even 50,000 seats at a later time, and it's done the right way so that when you expand it that much more, it's done properly and can be done correctly, then that price tag doesn't look so bad when you do it later on. When you say, okay, we're going to do this expansion, we're going to add 10,000 seats, and oh yeah, this is only going to cost us $90 million because we put the structure in place properly recently. So I wouldn't be too concerned about the initial 35,000.
And real quick, and there's also the other, right? There's going to be other building attached. Is that still on, right?
Yeah, there's going to be they're going to tack some stuff onto it as well. But the other thing, I learned this construction the last time we did facilities, which was Corbett, Dome, baseball, softball. I think that's it. Yeah. The last time we went through this, the roof is super expensive to build, and that was for baseball and softball. It'll be really, really expensive to build for football, and that's for two reasons. One, cantilever roofs are just expensive. But two, in Florida, you got to hurricane proof it, so it's got to be able to stand 200-mile-per-hour winds, and that makes shade prohibitively expensive to build. So just keep that in mind, like that when you see like sunshine, you go, oh, who's going to sit in the sunshine? Well, students, you might get cooked. If you want some like $49 Groupon season tickets, you might be baking a little bit if there's some noon kicks in August and September.
So we put the visitors too.
Yeah, I learned a lot about the construction process and everything, and boy, we screwed it up the last time. I just don't want to see that happen again. But one of the big concerns is that you have to hurricane proof everything, and that the roof is by far the most expensive thing. So I can't imagine what a dome would be, because then you got to close it.
That was such a tease. That was a big tease by Steeg, just bringing up the word dome. I thought I didn't think that was necessary, Steeg.
I'm sorry. Well, in fairness, it wasn't necessarily a dome. It was it was a breezeway, which my initial reaction when I'm saying too much. My initial reaction when I saw it was, that's not going to survive a hurricane. Like, there's no way that thing would stand. But yeah, I mean, as far as, you know, what they're going to end up having at the final product, it's going to look really cool. It's going to look really spiffy, and we're all going to love it. We're all going to try to steal something off the walls in the first game so that we can have the piece of USF history in our own homes. You know, I'm planning on taking a seat. I don't know about you guys. I'm bringing my Allen wrench to the first game.
Yeah. I think the other aspect of this, you talked about kind of saying it's very. Some people are thinking how expensive it is on a per seat basis. I think it was mentioned it was mentioned today. University of Florida is thinking about doing renovations to their football stadium, and they're not, building a new structure or anything. They might just be moving some things around, maybe changing up how concourses and things like that are, maybe adding like a kitchen for concessions. And they're saying that's going to be, they said initially it's going to be they said a few or a couple $100 million renovation. And that's for a structure that's already standing. So I don't think the price is that outrageous. Despite the size of the stadium, I think it also kind of lends you to think it's going to have some I'd imagine it's going to be designed with modern amenities and things like that, and more of those kind of modern structural ideas throughout it. So that would lend me to think
he's above the urinals.
Yeah,
that's the modern amenities that I want. I want to be able to, if I got to go piss in the middle of a game, I want there a little TV there so I can see what's going on, so I don't have to, worry about anything like that.
Yeah. So we'll go around
Stadium at San Diego State Stadium costs 35,000 seats. So yeah, construction costs continue to rise. So 340 is totally reasonable. I mean, we should probably have a nicer facility.
The shade that they're going to put in is the extra $30 million.
Maybe more than that.
They'll need a little more shade than Snapdragon had. We don't want any people passing out in the first game.
Yeah, San Diego, you don't really need even 8 miles inland. You don't really need to worry about that too much.
I'll go around the horn here. We'll start with Dr. Matt. What do you think kind of the impact is? This is something Nathan wanted to ask. Kind of what do you think the impact is going to be in the short term for the stadium, not just for the team, kind of for school and alumni, and then long term, what are you hoping the impact is of having the stadium on campus? And we'll go around the horn here. We'll start with Dr. Matt.
Well, a couple of things I'm hoping for is just impact on university culture. Having a center of university culture where people can hang out is something that the university frankly needs. Our students having a sense of community. USF has a fairly large campus. I kind of forgot that until I went to Mississippi and now at Notre Dame. Those campuses are relatively smaller compared to USF. USF is just, walking from where the stadium's going to be all the way over to the engineering building is almost a 2-mile walk. So trying to get students to have an opportunity to go somewhere, be together, and just have a sense of community will be a definitive plus. Giving alumni are going to want to come back for one of those first few games. I can tell you right now, I definitely want to come back for that first season. And then it's building on that momentum. How can you take advantage of that to say, okay, let's say Alex Golish is doing really well, is in year 4, knock on wood, he's competing for a potential one of these playoff bids or whatever is going to happen. It changes every year. Who knows? But building that kind of community and momentum, that brings in donors, that brings in people who can, you can put them in front of a faculty member and say, hey, this person's doing really awesome research in that area. Would you like to do some benefaction? And suddenly we're improving some facilities where I don't want to use trickle down economics for obvious reasons, but I do think that it's a good front porch to the institution that we currently don't have. Everything's really growing, but getting people in and saying, hey, Maybe you had some bad experiences with USF in the past. Maybe your friend or daughter got decapitated at a softball game. Here's a good reason to come back. We're in the AAU now. We got a really good football stadium. We did it the right way. It's built up. It's a great place to be. I think that all of those things are really potential benefits to growing the university culture. So that's what I'm really hoping for.
Steeg, what about you? What are you thinking short term and then long term? Kind of what are you hoping?
I mean, the short term is I think the more crucial aspect of it. College sports to me is very cyclical, and football in particular can be very cyclical as far as teams are good, teams are bad, teams are good, teams are bad, teams are good, teams are bad, conferences are good, conferences are bad, so on and so forth. And there's examples of, you know, outliers, but for the most part, USF just kind of needs to find itself back into like not basement dweller, but they don't necessarily need to be like, you know, top dog or anything like that. You don't need to, you know, have unreasonable expectations, but for the short term, you can at least hope that you're fielding a competitive team, and because you're fielding a competitive team, more people can come back to campus, and more people want to come to campus, and more people want to visit USF, and more people want to, you know, say, hey, you know, we have an away game at USF this year, let's go to that. Brings more revenue and brings more opportunities to not just the USF, you know, campus, but also the surrounding areas, so that you can start to build that up a little bit more, eventually kind of re-engaging a positive college experience for the students, a positive alumni experience. You know, the economics behind it, you know, yes, we can talk about, you know, the economics of a $340 million stadium, but if you start to invest in the area more and more, then that Temple Terrace, Fowler Avenue, and, you know, the between Fowler and Fletcher is no longer this joke of, oh, stay away from Fletcher Walmart, oh, stay away from, you know, Nebraska Avenue or anything like that. Then it becomes, hey, there's this really bumping area, you know, in a very popular part of the state, and can, you know, be a big deal in this state again. And then hopefully the long term is more and more investments back into the stadium and to the campus and to the area, so that, you know, it's not just football as the front porch of things, but if you need to redo the baseball complex, if you want to redo the Yuengling Center, the Corvette Stadium, the track stadium, you have those. And God forbid, at some point, you need to update the tennis facility. It's been way too long. I saw on Twitter, someone was like, yeah, this is great, but like, when are you guys going to update the tennis complex? It's not going to cost $340 million to do that. We really need to update that. It was the funniest tweet. I was like, holy shit, this person is me. Like, and yeah, get the Todd bumping, as Heath said. But
Heath,
yeah,
I just want to say you are killing it, my man. You're I don't have a way to like log in and comment. I would just be like fired back at you with the comments right now, like, because I don't have a login for this thing, so I don't know how to do it. But like, my man, I love you. You're the best. And I hope we're racing corgis at the new football stadium on opening night, my man. You deserve it.
Seriously. Yeah, Paige hates those copy pastas, by the way, so I keep on sending them to her. But yeah, evidently this is
That's a perk of the Discord right there.
He posted a copy pasta like 10 minutes after the announcement of the AAU, and I was like, did he write one that fast? Like, the devil works hard, but Heath works harder.
Incredible every time. It's Heath's ability to make copy pastas is only I'm going to his ability to just create these things out of thin air with the greatest emojis, with the greatest raunchiness that would offend and kill anyone over the age of 79 is just incredible to me. I love it. But yeah,
True skill.
Sure, it's gonna suck for like 6 months, and you know, the budget's gonna look bad. But hey, we're gonna play in an on-campus stadium. I'm gonna get trashed off of some Ying beer and have some fun with it.
Colin, short term, long term, what are the impacts, or what are you hoping for? And as an alum and somebody that's been close to the program for a long time,
This is the only thing I care about. I can't even count how many group texts with USF alums. I care, you know, Buying a house, my real estate agent, manager for the basketball team. I talked to literally somebody around USF every single day of my life. The university's had a tremendous impact on me personally, professionally, all those things. And it's because I cared about, it boils down to basically it's because I cared about sports at first. That's what got me in. And then, I did some stuff around the university as well, but like sports is what got me to care, to give a shit. I think the people of my generation and a little bit after me still care to this day, because of the experiences that they got to have as undergrad. We were there at a really special time where it felt like the roof was going to come off the place and we were just going to, rocket to the top 10 and be one of America's next great universities. Slight detour, big detour. Sort of like that I-95 in Philly right now, detour. The damn road collapsed. And
That's Jeff Scott era.
Yeah, well, not just Scott era, but like failure to invest in what you had, putting emphasis on the wrong things, and I think we lost a generation of kids who don't. You go to campus and there's so many kids who just don't give a damn about football or university. They're there to go to school, and that's great. Go get a great education. It's an AAU school. That's a fantastic thing. But the fact that you're not tied to university emotionally is bad for the long-term health of the school, because we need you to come back, be involved, be engaged, help, not just athletics, but campus-wide. And we lost a lot of those kids, that just sort of went to USF to go to USF. That can't happen again. And so we lost what made it special to be a USF student. And this, I think, is the biggest possible step that you could take to get kids emotionally engaged again about being proud that they are Bulls and that they want to go to USF and that it is a university of first choice. And this is the biggest possible step you could take in that direction. So yeah, I'm super excited. I was always like stadium schmadium. Like I was never like we had to have this or anything like that. We played a friggin' stadium that's hosted 3 Super Bowls. Like how bad could it be? I think we got to a point though where it had to happen. For various reasons, various incompetence by USF. This is your only out. Will Weatherford is right. It's worse to not do it because then you're just stasis, and stasis is death. So, we're not throwing a Hail Mary, but I think we're throwing like a 5-yard in, and like we need to hit it. It's a little slant route. There's a little risk there. It could get knocked out of the line of scrimmage, somebody could blitz you, but I think in the long run, you're going to complete that pass more than you're not. It's going to, move the chains a little.
Yeah. To me, I think, college football should be played on campus, right? So as someone that just loves college football, I think this is a great step. My grandfather went to the University of Florida in the 50s. He became a season ticket holder shortly thereafter. He took my dad and my uncle to games, so they constantly back to campus. He took us to games and constantly going back on campus as young kids. That's something I think that is the key driver of college football to me. And I think in the South, especially, kind of that heirloom-like passing down of fandom. And a lot of that involves going back to campus. So I think having a stadium on campus, and now future generations, you'll be able to bring children and grandchildren to campus, show them around when they're young, and then show them the stadium, and be able to congregate with a group of like-minded people and other alums. I think it's crucial to growing a program. And this is something my dad and my grandpa both said to me, because they went through the ringer as Florida fans, right? They constantly said the time you always kind of wish you had as a fan is when your program is on the rise, right? When you're coming up, because once you get kind of towards the top, it's all kind of downhill, right? You're seeing where Florida's at now, right? the rise is always the best part. I think with this, you're kind of, the rise started a while ago. It kind of tapered off, right? Like you said, on some detours, but getting on campus stadium, I think really kind of cements and restarts that rise. And this is the best part of being a fan, is when you're on the come up. So I think this could have a really big impact, not just in terms of, it'll probably give a recruiting bump and things like that as well. But just engagement from the community, engagement from the fan base should be a huge impact there. So,
yeah.
And now Hillsborough County, do your part and build some public transit to get people there. That needs to be the next step. Seriously, like you can't just have 40,000 cars parking on game day. That's just going to be a bleep show. So all right, Hillsborough County, figure it out. Light rail, BRT, whatever it's going to be, figure it out.
I mean, that would just be good for getting students to campus who are commuters, like even not during football games, just on a regular basis. That would really help. Just having, forgive me from going into a little bit of our challenge with computer engineering and chip education, but being able to get on campus to work with specific tools instead of going through a virtual private network that significantly slows down your chip design and fabrication. Not having public transport makes it really hard for students to get on campus and is actually a barrier to students to getting into certain engineering fields. So that's one potential benefit for that, not just from football, but if you're developing a really good public transport to get students to campus, you can get single parents, you can get students from low income communities who can get to campus, do those specific kind of tasks, get support from TAs and students. And so that's an additional added economic benefit to the community.
Nerd.
Damn right.
I thought you were frozen for a second, Steeg. I wasn't quite sure.
No, he's just waiting. Nerd.
I was waiting. I didn't want to interrupt for Matt. He's too smart for me. I would say nerd, and he would say a word that I've never heard before, and then just cause my tiny brain to explode.
We're coming up on, I think, over an hour now. Any kind of final thoughts on? Obviously, once we get more info on terms of design and things like that, I'm sure we'll be all over that. But any final thoughts on this? The approval. I think somebody in the chat asked, "Is the stadium happening?" It would seem to be looking like it is
happening.
Yeah. So it was approved. So final thoughts going around the room here. Let's start with Colin. We'll go the other way right here.
Go Knights go, but I don't mean the ones up the street on I-4. I mean the ones in the desert. They're up 6-1, and I'm very excited. It's a great day. It's a great day. Big day in history, University of South Florida. This is big. They invested. They committed. The alignment. I know that word got used repeatedly in the meeting today. Alignment. Yeah, this is what alignment is. This is everybody going, okay, we're all going to row in one direction here. We're taking a bit of a chance. We're going to invest, and we're going to do what should have been done a long, long time ago to make this program what it should be. There is too much of a recruiting base here for football. There is too much enthusiasm for the sport. There are too many people in a growing community that to support this product, to not have it be successful. And we just sort of let it go. And that goes to a lot of people. That ain't happening anymore. Everything that I've wanted to see as a USF fan, except for the DSO, but everything that I've wanted to see for a USF fan the last 2-3 years, I think we're really starting to see it. It's a slow process. It'd be nice if we could win a few more games. Like, again, we've won one FBS game since October of 2019. Like, that's absurd. Got to win some games across all sports. But we're starting beach volleyball, starting lacrosse team. The fact that we're growing in those areas, that we are still committed to expanding this program, to making it a bigger part of the university, that it's growing. I'm excited. And I've always just said play the long game. And we finally have some people that are playing the long game. We're not just looking short term. We're not just like looking for the PR win or whatever. And, I'm going to go off on a 5-minute rant, so I'm going to do that. It's a great day for the university, and I'm excited.
Dr. Matt.
Colin hit on a lot of great things. I think that, when we started podcast, we just for years and years we've felt like we've got a lot of bad news, and so we focused on the DSO, we focused on a lot of the negative, we focused on articles in the Tampa Bay Times. It just kind of it's nice to have positive things coming, and that's a sign of proper leadership. I'm really excited. Not getting into the Big 12 has been the kick in the butt this university is needed. And my last thing about this stadium thing, if nothing else, the fact that we're doing more business with the Vinix and less business with the Glazers is always a good thing.
Steeg.
Preach.
No thoughts. Not a single thought coming up here right now.
You got intimidated by me talking about quantum computing. You're just like, no.
Yeah, exactly. No, get scared. No, I mean,
Heath will like the Young's double slit experiment. But.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's been a long time coming, and I think to go off of tangent on a slightly different thing is I think a lot of instant reaction by some people were USF is like, this is all for nothing. USF has already missed the realignment vote. You know, this is a waste of money. Why are they doing this? Yada, yada, yada. First off, realignment has been happening. Realignment is always going to happen. Realignment is always happening as these things happen. The current shift towards what football into might make things a little bit more difficult. But USF is always going to be an attractive market. You know, one way or another, it's always going to be in conversation. So there's when one boat sails on by, another boat is going to come thereafter. There's no worry about it. Build the stadium, do it the right way, start winning games, start winning conference championships, you know, put teams out there. You know, this is the first step to doing that. It's the small habits and doing the small things and build the big thing that you've been putting off the last 10 years. I'm glad it's finally happening.
All right. A good day for USF DSO notwithstanding. Just to get some we'll do some quick market research here in the chat. You know, what can we charge for this shirt? What can we $10?
Love
15?
it.
What can we do?
20.
I think at least
20.
30?
Portion of the proceeds.
30.
Portion of the proceeds, of course, to the stadium.
There you go.
Right, exactly.
All right, so we'll $19.99. We'll take it. All right, guys, thanks for coming on. We're over an hour now. Colin's got to go
Celebrate
on Twitter and get the spike scarf.
I got nothing.
Whip around his head like a helicopter.
He has to manage his condos in Vegas and
Yes.
Tampa.
His multiple properties.
I know the plan is that I'm going to spend like 6 months a year here and 6 months a year there, and then I'm going to the one I'm not in, I'm going to like rent out when I'm not here. That's sort of the like goal here.
Those are two probably pretty good markets for that, huh?
Yeah,
and that's kind of the theory. So we'll see if it works out. But let's get the one done first, and then we'll deal with the rest. But I'm excited, and this is good. Hey, you know what? Go Bulls! Go Bulls!
Go Bulls. Nathan was also excited. His internet just hates him, so we'll get him back on. The old hot dog water internet. We'll get Nathan on to give his thoughts later on.
Speaking
the
of
dogs are excited. Everybody's excited.
Violet, are you excited about the stadium?
Hey, join if you want more news and copy pastas and all that great stuff. Join our Discord. You can direct message us on Twitter. Show us you're following us on Twitch or YouTube, and get in the Discord. Everybody here is in there occasionally, so you can talk to us directly. Share some inside info, and you get the awesome copy pastas. So join us there. Huh? Go ahead, and maybe that T-shirt.
Yeah, if you get a T-shirt. Also, like, I know some people like ping me and send me questions. Like, if you like, I don't check Discord. I try and keep my devices turned off so I can like do my job and shit. Like, I've turned off Slack on my phone and things like that. But if you guys got questions, I'll just at me on Discord. I'll probably be able to help with this kind of stuff more than anything else about like what's going on with football recruiting or anything else you normally care about, but with like stadium stuff and DSO, that's sort of my Ballywick, if you will.
Last question for Colin before we get out of here. What's the winning score going to be at the U.S. Open?
Oh man, do you see that 11th hole, by the way? Oh my god, it's just impossible.
I've seen a couple of videos and look around.
290-yard par 3, bunkered front, bunkered back, balls off 3 sides. Totally normal. Par 3. 7, 6, 7.
Yeah.
These guys are good, man. They're really good, and there's some gettable. The weather looks like it's going to be good, so it's going to be, I think, kind of gettable, especially in the back 9. I mean, it's 500-yard par 4s, but like it's gettable 500-yard par 4s. So.
Yeah, that's not in my bag. So, all right, guys, thanks again.
Yeah,
Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.